Hi, everyone. I'm Kate Mueller, Chief Product Owl and Resident Cheesemonger here at KnowledgeOwl, and welcome to the November Product Newsletter. So let's get right into it. The first and the largest feature that we've released in the last month is called required reading. You can use required reading if your knowledge base requires individual readers to log in, whether that's a KnowledgeOwl reader login, whether they're coming in through SAML SSO or remote auth. As long as you've got individual reader accounts, you can use required reading. And what this allows you to do is to mark certain articles in your knowledge base as being required. And what that does is it adds the article to this built-in required reading page, which will display to each reader a list of all of the required articles and whether they still have to acknowledge them or whether they have already acknowledged them. And when they view one of these required articles, there will be a call out. You can choose where this goes. I just happen to have put it underneath the article title that says, hey, this article is required for you to read. And then there is an acknowledgement section, which I recommend you put at the bottom, that they basically check a box to say, yes, I have read and understood whatever this thing is. So the use case here, there's a lot of different applications. You could use this for onboarding of new customers or new staff. You can use it if you're using your knowledge base for internal purposes, getting people to read new or updated policies and procedures and to verify that they have in fact read them. And each of those acknowledgments gets saved into our backend servers, and you can generate a report to see a list of everyone who's acknowledged, the date that they acknowledged. And we do actually try to track how long they spent on the page. So you should be able to get a good sense of whether or not it seems like they actually read it or just scrolled to the bottom and checked the box. So here's what it looks like if I'm looking at this as a reader who hasn't acknowledged something that's required. And then here's what it looks like if I'm looking at something that I've already acknowledged. So you'll see I get a different message at the top. I also get a sort of confirmation message at the bottom. There's nothing else for me to do here. So this gets displayed in this built-in required reading page. You can also choose to put it into an article list that might live on your home page. So you could swap out maybe like a new articles or updated articles list and put in required articles. You can also add it into your table of contents using a URL redirect category if you want. So there's a bunch of different ways to direct people to that required list. On the back end, you'll need to head into settings and required reading to be able to enable this. We've included these two merge codes. So the first one is what generates that little flag at the top that lets people know that this is a required thing that they need to acknowledge. The second one is the acknowledgement section at the bottom, which is where that little checkbox in the statement that says, yes, I've read and understood this thing come into. You can add these into your article custom HTML templates and style settings. We've got documentation that'll walk you through putting it in all kinds of different places there. And if you've joined us more recently at KnowledgeOwl, since we released this feature, those merge codes are already in there and there's nothing else you'll need to do. Good on you. So all of those acknowledgments get stored out here, and this reporting, required reading reports, we'll dump it into a CSV so you can see all of that information. And then there's also over in customized text, an entire required reading section. So you can customize each of the little messages that gets displayed, whether that's in the article itself or out on the required reading page overall. So you can totally customize the text as well as the placement and all of that. Lots of control built into this feature. The second feature we released is on the surface a bit smaller, but I think applicable across the board to pretty much anyone who's using KnowledgeOwl for just about anything. And that has to do with article versions. Specifically, we've had some requests for folks to be able to export PDFs of inactive versions so that they could circulate those for maybe a content review or share with subject matter experts either before something goes live or to provide a historical record for some kind of compliance purposes or something else. To do this, we've built out a bunch of exciting new stuff. If you open an inactive version in the editor, you'll see this generate version PDF link. You can click that link to generate a PDF. We will keep these PDFs around for 24 hours. So you can click that link and wander off and do something else and then come back to download it. The only exception to that is that if you save changes to the version, we will blow the PDF away. So you'd need to generate a new one. But as you saw here, it generates pretty quickly. You can click the link up here to download that PDF, or you can click the PDF icon that appears down here in the versions list to generate it. These will only be visible once you have generated that version PDF. And there's some exciting stuff that happens in these PDFs. Let me just zoom in a trifle so you can see this better. We've started collecting a whole bunch of additional data around versions. We used to collect just the version number, whatever that was set to, and the version creation date. We're now capturing the name of the author who created the version. If the version has been activated, we will capture the date and the name of the author who activated it. And similarly, if it has been deactivated, we will capture the date and the name of the author who deactivated it. Deactivation basically just means that you activated a different version instead. These fields will only be populated when those actions have occurred, and we can only populate them for versions that have that action occur after we release this change. If you've got existing versions, you're not going to see a version author here because we didn't capture that information when you created it, but any versions you create moving forward will have all of that information populated. Things that I get very excited about with this. First of all, it's great because you don't have to mess around with making a version visible to groups, and what you're going to see in that PDF export will be exactly whatever the content is in the version at that moment and that relevant version metadata rather than the article metadata. Other exciting things about this, we have included all of those fields. We had to generate the PDF somehow. So what we've added is a new custom HTML template and setting style that allows you to basically set how you want those PDFs to generate. They'll use the same header and footer as the settings for individual PDFs here, but otherwise you have control over independently of the article. So here you can say, okay, I've got this section that includes all of the metadata. We've pre-populated this for you, but you can come in and say, oh, I don't care about the date it was created, or I don't care who the author was who activated it. You can come in, delete those things, you can reorder them. So you get complete control over what's happening in that version PDF without touching your live article PDFs. So that's exciting thing number one. Exciting thing number two is that you'll see that all of this metadata has these translation merge codes in it. And if you've been following customized text at all, you know that what that actually means is that we've wrapped all of this within customized text. So maybe you don't want it formatted this way, or you want a colon because that would make sense, or whatever you want to do here. You can hop over to customized text in the tools menu, go into article, and we added these into the bottom of the article template. So down here, you can come in and adjust what each of those labels look like. So you have more or less complete control over which of these metadata fields will be displayed in that version PDF and what the text is introducing each of those fields. The last little feature we added, I don't have anything pretty to show you here with it, is relevant for those of you using our contextual help widget, particularly those of you using any of our existing widget methods to update the recommended page or control the widget behavior beyond the out-of-the-box functionality. And for those scenarios, we've added a new method that'll allow you to reset the widget. This basically just clears out whatever article is currently open, as well as the recommended articles list. Most of you won't need this, but those of you working with, let's say, single page applications or doing other heavily code-centric ways of calling the widget, you may find that this reset helps you get exactly the control that you want over the widget. That kind of covers the majority of the new features that we have out. Aside from that, we also have new blog posts. We've been trying, not quite there yet, but trying to get to one new blog post a week. And since my last newsletter, we have published 4 new blog posts. One of those is our highlights from Write the Docs Atlantic 2023, which was a virtual conference. We are a sponsor of that, but a whole lot of our team attended this. And this highlights some of our favorite talks, projects, and gives you a summary of what the event was like. If you've been considering attending a Write the Docs conference, they're fantastic. We also have a post from one of our most recent hires, Chad, 7 tips for managing the chaos of starting a new remote job. This is just a sort of general, ooh, this was useful in starting at KnowledgeOwl So if you're going to be starting a new remote job, take a look at that. We also have a guest post from Juliet exploring the top tech writing collaboration tools for 2023. So if you are working to get subject matter experts to weigh in on certain things, or you're trying to drive a large documentation project forward, some of the tools highlighted in this blog post could be particularly useful for you. And last but not least, our most recent blog post is by yours truly, Why We Don't Do Pro Services Anymore. Historically, we did offer a variety of paid professional services that were basically one-off customizations for individual customers. This might include custom theme builds, bespoke functionality, all kinds of things. And for a variety of reasons, in the last year, we realized that this wasn't a great fit for the company that we wanted to be in the business model that we had. So this blog post is basically exploring more about why that change happened, the evolution of our business model over time. If you've been curious about some of the inner workings of KnowledgeOwl, this one might be good. Or if you just have some questions about like, why did you get rid of pro services? This might be good. The only other major docs update I have is out in our general security options. I basically overhauled the information we have on the HTTP response headers. These settings live in settings security down here, basically this whole section, HTTP response headers. I've updated the documentation here to provide a lot more information about what the various content security policy directives do. So these directives basically give you an extra layer of security that can help prevent resources from being loaded in certain places. So they can be a way to lock down things like cross-site scripting, data injection attacks, potentially malware, other things. So if you are loading external scripts or external resources into your knowledge base, these directives basically allow you to say, I only want to load scripts or resources from these trusted places. I've built out this documentation in a lot more detail because we noticed a lot of folks were turning the content security policy on without fully configuring each of the directives. And what will happen there is it'll prevent resources that you actually need from loading if you don't have it configured properly. So there's a section now for each of the different CSP directive types, what we include by default when you enable them, and some suggestions on check these places to see where you might be loading scripts or fonts or whatever to be sure that you're including them appropriately in the appropriate section of the CSP directives. And aside from that, one other happy little thing I get to talk about. We don't push for reviews very often at KnowledgeOwl, and I'm not pushing right now. But we do periodically like to ask or encourage folks to leave us reviews. And we've been working a little bit more with G2, which is one of the top software review sites. We've gotten a lot of folks who've reviewed us there. We've also gotten a lot of folks who found us through G2, so it's a pretty good platform for us. And we discovered that they have this G2 Gives project, which allows us to partner with them and to do a little bit of good out in the world when we do get reviews. So we're doing this campaign with them right now, where if you write a review of KnowledgeOwl, both KnowledgeOwl and G2 will donate $10 to one tree planted. Each dollar plants a tree. So if you go leave us a review on G2 tomorrow, we will plant 20 trees in total as a result of that review. So if you've been thinking about, ooh, I'd really like to share my experience with KnowledgeOwl, good or bad, or if you haven't updated a review that you left 4 years ago and you've been thinking maybe that would be a great thing, now is a great time to do it because we'll get a bunch of trees planted in addition to getting the updated review. So I will drop the link for this as well as all of the blog posts and everything else directly into the video description. And thank you so much.